Hi everybody, and welcome to our next installment of our quickish videos, which we are calling Technique Tuesday. And this is something that I haven't shown you before. I've honestly got no idea why, because it's an absolutely awesome technique, and it's worth me spending half an hour to show you this. So what we're going to do today is distressed vintage stamping technique. Now, what do I mean when I say vintage distressed stamping technique? So we're basically going to use only a couple of products, and we're going to create a vintage looking stamped image. And it's super easy to do, and for everybody who follows me, this is something that I know you're going to try because it looks fabulous with the new stamps that I've just released, the Floroscript collection. So equipment, what do you need for this? Super easy. You need a distress oxide. I've chosen 4 different colors today because we're going to do this technique in the traditional color, which is probably vintage photo. But then we're going to change it, and we're going to have a go at Kitsch Flamingo, Ground Espresso and Uncharted Mariner. It does need to be distress inks or distress oxides. I favour oxides, but you can do this if you're using ordinary distress inks or distress ink pads. Then you need your fine mist water spray bottle. You need some stamps because obviously it's a stamping technique. I'll probably go with the 2 A5 sets for the first couple, so I can cherry pick the larger flowers, just so it's easier for you to see this. But this technique works on just about everything, so it will work. It will be beautiful with the medley stamps, so the 2 medley stamps. It will also be awesome with backgrounds to give you a completely different background look. Now this is really important. You all know that when I'm using water with my stamps, with my oxide ink pads, etc., I generally use our ice white cardstock, and this technique will work on that, but it will be even better, it will be maximized if you treat yourself to a pack of the hot pressed watercolor card. So if you don't know what the hot pressed watercolor card is, it's basically proper, it's the best quality you can get in watercolor card, but it's smooth. It's been hot pressed to give you a smooth finish. So traditionally, as you know, watercolor card has that lovely bumpy texture, but for us as card makers and indeed stampers, we want a smoother surface to stamp on. And when I was sourcing the hot press watercolor card, there are a lot on the market, but I wanted, ours is a fantastic weight, and it also is the best quality that I could find, and I had lots and lots of samples. So do try it on the ice white cardstock, but also try it if you've got some of the hot press watercolor card, because you will see a huge difference. And then the only other things you need are your stamping platform and a heat tool, a heat gun. So let's get started. Now what I've done, and this is a top tip, I've just used this is just A4 card chopped into 4, so little A6 pieces. It's easier than doing it with a die cut shape. So what I would suggest is, if you know you're going to stamp your image and you want it in a die cut shape, for example, like this is probably the only one that fits on here, yeah, just do it on a larger piece of card and then die cut it afterwards. With the straight edges, it makes it easier to reposition on your stamping platform. And you all know that I keep kitchen roll on my platform, and I'm actually going to take that off because I need this to be in exactly the right position every time I stamp it. So I'm not throwing that away, I'm going to save it. So here we go. Where do we start? We start by giving, well, let's choose a stamp first. Let's position a stamp on the platform. So I need this to be in exactly the same position for the 2 times that I'm going to stamp it, which is why I removed the kitchen roll. Look, let's just make some space. Here we go. So you can see that now. I'll move my acrylic circles. There we go. So I know now that this is perfectly in the bottom right hand corner of my stamping platform. So I'm going to position a stamp. I'll choose, let's use the other one because I use that one all the time. Well, we'll do both. Decisions. These are my little mask it sheets so that I can go back in and mask off the stamp. So let's choose this one. Let's just choose this one. You can do this with any stamp, by the way. So it doesn't have to be these floral ones, but this one will look particularly awesome. So let's just pop that on there and just pop that in the middle. Remember, I'm doing this on a bigger piece of card. It's so that I can die cut it afterwards if I want to. So I've picked the stamp up. I know it's in the nice position, and I can move that now and put that to one side. So the first thing you need to do is just give your watercolour card a mist. You'll notice I've taken it off my platform to do this. Yeah. So just give it, I'm just going to do this towards the side so I don't get water on my mat. I'm going to probably give it 4 or 5 light sprays. Yeah, 5 will do. And all that does is that just makes the ink instantly start moving on the cardstock when you stamp it. And this is the effect that we're going for. Oops. Good magnets. And then we're going to stamp the flower stamp, and we'll do the vintage photo first. I'll just move this magnet. We'll do the vintage photo first because this is, I rarely use this colour. I prefer ground espresso or gathered twigs or something a bit darker, but we'll do it with this one first. So what we're going to do is stamp this onto the just slightly damp watercolour card. I don't need this to be perfect, so this doesn't have to be the perfect stamp because we're gonna spray water on it again. So let's just take that off, and you can see, look, already, I don't know whether you can see this, let me bring that in. Yeah, it started to move a little bit with the water. We're going to take that away, and we're going to give this another 2 or 3 sprays with water. So I'm just doing this on the side. I can't remember, I mean, that was 3. So I've done quite a few more. I'll bring it in and show you in a second. That is the chair creaking. So what's happened, that was quite a few. That was about 9 or 10 sprays. So we've got this watery effect going on here. Can you see? Which is absolutely spot on. It's exactly what we're going for. Now I would normally leave this to dry naturally, but we're not today. I'm just going to spray that leaf because it's not moving enough. There we go. This is the difference with the hot press watercolour card, by the way. Can you see how it's the ink is just moving and it's absolutely perfect. I would normally leave this to dry naturally, but in the interest of a relatively shorter, let's just get rid of some of this ink, relatively shorter demo. And I say that to cover myself because you know it's not going to be 25 minutes. I'm going to use the heat gun on this. So, high speed. I'm just stopping a second. If you don't want these bits on the edge, just do what I did. I actually don't mind it because it all adds to the overall effect. That's just because I use such a lot of water. But if you don't want it, just mop it up with a bit of kitchen roll. So I am force drying this. If I was doing this for a card and I was doing it properly, I wouldn't force dry it. I would leave it to dry naturally. So you can see now that the ink has bled and dripped and dropped and gone everywhere, which is exactly what we want. But more importantly, the stamped image has faded. It's faded in with the water in the background. So remember to turn it over, this will flatten your cardstock. That will do nicely. So let's show you what's happened. I'll just wiggle that to straighten it out a little bit. So what's happened is the first stamp has faded. It's almost like a ghost effect, and we've got the ink where it's run. You can minimize this. I actually really like it where it bleeds off the page a bit, but if you don't want that, just use less water and give it more time for the cardstock and the ink to do their job and bleed out a little bit. So that is now dry enough, and we can go back into our stamping platform. Notice I didn't take the stamp off. I've left it exactly where it was. This is why I took the kitchen roll off, so I can get this in exactly the right position. And now, because it's a little bit kinky, we will put as many magnets on as we can to make sure it's exactly in the right position. And it is. And we're going to go in again with the stamp, but this time we're going to make sure we've got a heavier load of ink, more ink on the stamp. Same colour. I quite like the vintage photo actually. It goes into like a vintage colour, a vintage brownie colour. So this time I'm making sure I've got lots of ink on this stamp. You do need to make sure the card is fully dry before you redo this. And then we will stamp that again. And we already know that this is in exactly the same position because we didn't move. We didn't move the cardstock. It's in the bottom right hand corner of my platform, and we didn't move the stamp. I'm just making sure I've covered that. The cardstock was still a little bit warm. It is worth leaving it to dry for a second. Oh, look at that. How absolutely stunning is that? Oh, look at that. So what we've done now is basically redone the stamp. It's in exactly the same position. And now what we've got is this lovely ghost thing. So instead of stamping it once and then just wetting it like we've done before, we've all done that. We've now got the second impression, which is the stronger one. And it just makes that image pop even more. I love that technique. It looks so classy. Right, so that's with a flower stamp. We will clean the stamp, and we're going to redo this with a different stamp in Uncharted Mariner. I'll probably just do a couple of colours today, so I'm changing the stamp. So we'll do the flower stamp, and then we will move on to a background so you can see how the backgrounds look as well. Particularly with the postmarks background stamp, it's going to look awesome. So let's put that one to one side, and let's bring in this other one, and we'll go with this tall one. Oh, that looks fabulous. Look at that. I'm going to use that in a card. Just see if I've done it centrally enough to fit into my little die. Oops. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. I think I'll cut this and use that on a card. It's too nice to not use it. Right, so we're moving on. So exactly the same thing. We're just going to change the colour of the ink. So I do need to just dry my platform. And then I'll show you how this works with a background stamp as well, because that's another, it's the same technique, but it's a slightly different effect because because it's a full background. So let's just pop that in the center. Pick that up. Same thing again, mist it with water. I think I've done 8 or 9 on that. It's trial and error, you do you. You can have it as dry or as wet as you like. So I'm going in with Uncharted Mariner this time. Now, you don't need to do second generation. If you wanted a softer, if you wanted the first layer even softer, you could do it as a second generation stamp the first time. I'm doing Uncharted Mariner because I absolutely love this colour. And complete transparency, I've never done this technique with this colour. So let's see if we like it. So stamp that. There's a little bit more water on the card this time. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It's actually doing it already, look. It's actually doing it already. So it's ghosting for us. Can you see? Look, it's starting to bleed already. So I'll do another few. I'll be a little bit more direct. So I'm going to go a little bit closer this time. Do you know what? That looks absolutely fantastic. Look at that. And I really want to do another spray there, so I'm going to. That is awesome. I love it, love it, love it. Now stop me. Stop me. Put that there. Let's dry this. I'm just going to mop up the excess before I start drying it. Oh, this is so good. And it's so easy to do as well. We've all got so many stamps. This is why I love stamping. So again, we will force dry this. If you want less on the outside, just in fact, I'll show you, we'll do it on the next one. I'll show you another way of doing this. Uncharted Mariner is gorgeous. Now this only really works this effectively on the hot press watercolour card. I know I keep going on about it, but it only works this effectively on this cardstock. So, to get this straight, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. A couple of mist of water on the back, chuck it underneath something heavy. In fact, I'm going to do that and leave that to dry for a second whilst we wait. We're going to try another technique. So instead of spraying so much water on after the first stamp, we're going to do it the opposite direction. I'm going to do more water. So this is a second way of doing this technique. We're going to do more water on the initial stamp and then leave that to dry. That was 16 or 17 sprays on there. And you can probably see that that is a lot of water on this stamp, on this cardstock. We'll go in again with the Uncharted Mariner just because that's what's on this stamp. And obviously you need to do this before the cardstock dries, but you can probably see if I bring that in quite closely. You can't really, but it has got quite a lot of water on. So let's stamp this. You can even see already, look, it's pooling underneath, which is exactly what we want. Oh, that's fabulous. I'm not even going to put any more water on that. I'm just going to leave that to do its... I'm telling you lies. I've done a bit on the bottom. So that is just more water on the cardstock, and it's darker because obviously there's less water because I haven't sprayed it. And we'll pop that to one side. I'm going to try and leave that one to dry on its own. We'll bring in the other one that has now flattened quite nicely. Thank you very much. I do need to dry this stamp because I've just had water on it. And then we'll go back in a second time, and then we will, I keep saying we, it's me, and then I will. So this is the first one. Back in the right position. And then restamp it. This time heavier with the ink. How long have I been? Oh, that's not bad. 21 minutes. We've got the background to do. This technique looks awesome on backgrounds. So straight back in. The cardstock is dry, so we will get our secondary stamp in a much stronger shade. Oh, that looks fabulous. This colour is stunning. Look at that. How beautiful is that? How gorgeous is that colour as well? Now, obviously, I've done this with one colour. You can do this with two colours, and that's exactly what I'm going to do with the background. So I call this a Technique Tuesday video, and I always go over the time, you know I do. But we are doing more than one technique. It's a technique-led demo. So I don't really care how long it takes me, as long as you get to see lots of different ideas. So let's pop this back where it belongs. Just bear in mind as well, everybody, for those of you that have treated yourself to the Floroscript stamps, you can do this technique with that one, with that one, with that one, with the medleys, and with all of these postmarks as well. So if you want to create like dimensional embellishments, you could do this vintage distress technique with these and then fussy cut them out, and it would look absolutely fantastic. So let's move on to a background. And this time we are going to do two colours. And I've chosen for these two colours Ground Espresso and Kitsch Flamingo. So background, let's do the postmark one because I really want you to see the postmark one. Or I will do, oh, it's here. This is going to look awesome in these two colours. So clearly the cardstock is bigger than my stamp, which is exactly what I would tell you to do anyway if you were doing this. So let's just pop that on. Just make sure I can get my magnets somewhere on there. Just, and we'll go down the side. Oh, I don't actually need to do that because we're going to mist it first anyway. Come on, Phil, he's supposed to be teaching everybody. So remember, with solid stamps, put them in position and then just peel them back and let them roll down so you don't get any air bubbles in, and then you know you're going to get a lovely strong impression. So we'll mist this one with water, and I will be a little bit heavier again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, because I've just done 12. So I've just done the top and bottom with an extra one. So let's get these magnets on quickly. I should have done this on a bigger piece of cardstock, but you know me, I don't like to make the job any easier. Remember as well, everybody, whilst I'm just positioning my magnets, obviously I can't go in that bottom corner. Remember to like the videos for me, because apparently this is where other people, this is where it gets shared more, because other people more likes it gets, the more it's displayed over the platform. So a little bit of Kitsch Flamingo. Doesn't need to be perfect, remember, for the first stamp. So a little bit of Kitsch Flamingo and a little bit of ground espresso. And this time I'm going to spray the stamp. So I've just done 4 little sprays on that. So let's do that in the background. You can see I didn't even worry about any areas being darker or lighter than the others. So we've now got this fabulous looking background. Oh, look at that. These 2 colours together are beautiful. I'm going to dry the stamp. Or I will when I find my bit of kitchen roll. So I'm going to dry the stamp and then dry the cardstock. You will obviously have a little bit more time than me. I'm trying to get this done, so it's not another 50-minute video. This is actually drying quite nicely on its own. So we've got this lovely softer background. If you want it to bleed more, you can spray this with water. But I didn't want this to bleed more. That will be enough, I think, for this one. I didn't want this to bleed more, which is why I've not sprayed it the second time. Make sure I've got this the right way up, because I have stamped it upside down. So put that back in position. And then we'll bring in that, for the end, we'll bring in the Uncharted Mariner one that we did and left to dry a little bit longer on its own. So that's as straight as I'm going to get that. So pink again first, heavier, and because I didn't use as much water, the effect from the stamp, this stamp, the second stamp, will be a little bit less strong, but it's a fabulous background. So lots of Kitsch Flamingo, and then some areas with the ground espresso. So let's just try and soften these lines, and I've shown you how to do that before. Just a little bit more flamingo down there, and I think that's good to go. So the corner's picking up, so I'm just going to hold it down as much as I can. Here we go. And this is a big stamp, so I am pressing everywhere. And hopefully I've done it upside down. Yes, I have. Post office is upside down. Oh, that's so good. Look at that for proper vintage. Let me just clean this stamp. So vintage doesn't have to be brown. We've introduced some pink to it, and I love the combination of pink and brown together anyway. Oh, look at that. Put it the right way up, which is that way. Look at that. How fabulous is that? So we've got some, so instead of doing a stamp and then misting it with water and leaving it, because if you do that, it looks awesome, but then you lose some of the definition of the stamp, which is why we go in the second time. So going in the second time, gives you the definition from the stamp. I absolutely love that. I love the colours as well. So now let's look at our first image, or the last one we did with the Uncharted Mariner. It's not 100% dry, but I am not going to stamp on that a second time, purely because I've moved the stamp to do the background. But look how fabulous that looks. How gorgeous is that? And there you go. So that is how to do vintage. That's not quite dry, so I'll put that one on the top. That's how to do a vintage distressed stamp technique. And it's super, super easy. And it also works with your sentiments. So you can do this with your sentiments and it creates a fabulous effect as well. I'm just going to take that little bit of excess water off. Well, when I find that bit of kitchen roll, where are you? There you are. Just going to take this excess water off. I'm not going to do anything else to this because I quite like it. It should have had the second stamp on, which would make it stronger again. But how fab is that? So we've got the, let's do this in order. We've got the vintage photo. We have the Uncharted Mariner. We have the ground espresso and kitsch flamingo background, and we also have the Uncharted Mariner with just the wet stamping on the wet cardstock. The difference is, look, can you see if I bring this in really close? The texture you get from this is awesome. Awesome. Now, you know me well enough to know that I would probably stamp that a second time and decoupage it. That these stamps were made for that. But there you go. So that is the quickest video I think I've done for ages. And we've got 4 different techniques, all based around the distressed vintage stamping technique. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I've shown you something different to do with your gorgeous Florascript stamps. Remember, if you're watching me for the first time, welcome, and make sure you subscribe to my channel. I am live every Monday evening on YouTube at 7 PM UK time. And also, you can follow the Sentimentally Yours Facebook page. And you can ask to join our fabulous Facebook group just by searching on Facebook for Crafting with Phill Martin and Sentimentally Yours. Please remember to answer the application questions when you ask to join. Otherwise, the system does automatically reject the application. So there you go, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed that. 4 fabulous techniques. There's loads more you can do with this, but I want you to go and have a play, have a go at this. Just remember to do the die cutting afterwards rather than before you do the technique, because the die cut shapes curl up more than straight edges. So there you go, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed that. I shall see you for episode 7 next Tuesday. So have a lovely time. Remember to tag me if you have a go at any of these. So just hashtag Phill Martin or hashtag Sentimentally Yours. I love to see what you all do. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I will see you next week. Bye.